There is a rare type of man that sticks in a woman's mind forever. Most guys fall into two traps. They either become doormats trying to please, or they puff up trying to impress. Both approaches fail. Let me tell you something nobody mentions. Women aren't scared of kindness. What frightens them is when they can to gain control. And the men they struggle hardest to control? Those with emotional intelligence, not just book smarts or sensitivity, but men who are perceptive, deliberate, and composed. A woman doesn't run from a man who shows feelings. She is unsettled by a man who understands his emotions completely, what they are, why they exist, and who refuses to let anyone weaponize them against him. She is thrown off by a man who stays level-headed, doesn't pursue desperately, doesn't compromise himself just to avoid conflict. She fears the man who recognizes the relationship dance and performs it more skillfully than she does. This man can be emotionally manipulated or tested. He can be backed into an emotional corner. When provoked, he doesn't lash out. When ignored, he doesn't beg. He observes, adapts, and moves with intention. That is emotional intelligence, and when paired with masculine steadiness, it becomes formidable. In this presentation, you'll discover how to become a man who resists manipulation, maintains emotional stability, and creates a lasting impression on women. We'll explore 6 characteristics that make emotionally intelligent men so effective, so uncommon, and so unforgettable to women. You'll receive specific guidance on mindset, actions, movements, and responses to become the man she can to influence and never anticipates. Don't miss any section. Each characteristic builds upon the previous one. Skip one, and you'll remain caught in familiar patterns. Master them all, and you'll transform how women perceive and interact with you. Let us examine them one by one. Trait number 1. You identify emotional tactics without reacting. Consider this common scenario. You in a relationship when your partner suddenly grows distant, withdraws affection, possibly testing your response. Most men either panic, pleading, over-explaining, rushing to fix things, or completely withdraw, becoming equally distant. The emotionally intelligent man avoids both these mistakes. He pauses. He notices the change. He observes without emotional reaction. Then he acts from a place of clarity rather than fear. Women find this unsettling, not because it is unhealthy, but because it demonstrates strength. It shows you can be provoked. You want to respond to emotional manipulation. You recognize the tactic for what it truly is. This doesn't make you unfeeling. It makes you centered. As Machiavelli observed, he who masters himself is harder to conquer than a city. In a world full of men who react instantly, becoming defensive, emotional, or angry at the slightest challenge, the man who maintains composure becomes extraordinary. While others raise their voices, defend themselves, or try to prove points, he remains silent, steady, in control. Not from indifference, but because he refuses to be drawn into disorder he didn't create. When a woman witnesses this, she doesn't see weakness. She sees power she cannot bend. Trait number 2. You don't seek validation because you've chosen yourself. The emotionally intelligent man doesn't pursue love as if it were essential for survival. He values it. He welcomes it, but he isn't desperate for it because he already recognizes his worth. Imagine this scenario during a first date. Imagine this situation. She drops a comment to test your reaction. Perhaps a subtle jab about your career goals, your physical appearance, or something from your history. Most men nervously chuckle, hoping to maintain her approval. But the man with emotional intelligence simply offers a calm smile, takes a moment, and responds, "That is an interesting observation." Then he continues the conversation. No defensiveness, no explanations, no crumbling under pressure. This composed self-control draws people in because it communicates one clear message. You don't require her approval to feel worthy. You've already accepted yourself. This is where Machiavelli provides wisdom that few truly grasp. He who attempts to please will forever be a servant. Put differently, the instant you make someone else's opinion your foundation, you surrendered your power. But a man secure in his identity feels no pressure to justify himself. He doesn't debate to be comprehended. He doesn't and put on performances to be liked. When she makes a testing remark, he stays unruffled. He lets it pass by like a breeze. Why? Because he is not striving to gain her endorsement. He already endorses himself. And that quiet self-assurance? Women sense it immediately. While most men are working hard to make an impression, he simply exists, grounded, focused, substantial. He doesn't to force charm. He doesn't to chase approval. He presents his authentic self and allows her to respond however she chooses. This isn't to pride or arrogance. It is internal strength. And that is what makes him impossible to forget. Trait number 3. You understand her without needing to control her. One of the most unnerving experiences for a woman accustomed to emotional manipulation is encountering a man who sees through her defenses. Not to criticize, not to control, but to genuinely comprehend. Picture a long-term relationship scenario. She becomes moody, withdrawn, giving short answers. The typical man either becomes defensive or pulls away emotionally. But you take a different approach. You calmly ask once, "Is something bothering you?" She says no. You acknowledge this with a nod. You create space. Later, when emotions have settled, you bring it up again. No accusations or demands, just attentive presence. That patience, it completely disarms her. Because suddenly she realizes she can use emotional tactics to dominate the conversation. She can provoke you into arguments. Because you were not playing defensively. You replaying strategically, like chess. This level of collected awareness is uncommon, and it is unsettling to many women, not because it is unkind, but because it removes their preferred tool, emotional confusion. The emotionally intelligent man replaces tension with clear communication, and most people aren't prepared for such directness. Trait number 4. You navigate conflict without raising your voice. Consider this common relationship scenario. Picture this: a heated discussion erupts. Emotions intensify, voices escalate, accusations start flying, but not from your direction. You speak deliberately. You take a breath before answering. You pose questions instead of casting blame. You set the emotional tone. This approach unsettles people who thrive on conflict, because they can pull you into their emotional whirlwind. They can disrupt your inner balance. Your victory doesn't come from overpowering others. It comes from maintaining command over yourself. Consider what Machiavelli might advise. A prince must understand when not to be virtuous when circumstances require it. Applied to emotional strategy, you recognize when gentleness is needed, when firmness is appropriate, and when silent departure is the best response. You don't require disorder to feel engaged with life. You introduce calmness, and those addicted to dysfunction will either grow to match your level or fade away. Either outcome works in your favor. Trait number 5. You don't fear her emotions. You channel them and become her sanctuary. This is where genuine emotional intelligence becomes unmistakable. Imagine you re-beginning a relationship with someone new. She possesses a powerful personality, perhaps even unpredictable. She challenges you. She pushes boundaries. Most men either sidestep confrontation or attempt to match her emotional intensity. But your approach, you stabilize the situation. You maintain steady eye contact. You acknowledge her feelings without surrendering your position. You remain centered, and gradually, she begins to change. Because your composure becomes infectious. Your emotional steadiness transforms into her place of security. Most women are accustomed to directing the emotional rhythm. But when she encounters a man unintimidated by her emotional storms, who can withstand the intensity while still guiding with warmth and perspective, she experiences something unusual. Genuine respect. Not domination, not submission, but strength she can surrender to safely. That is what makes her uneasy, because she can manipulate it, yet she desires it deeply. Trait number 6. You can disengage without drama or remorse. This represents the ultimate expression of emotional intelligence, the capacity to release without creating chaos. In marriage, in established relationships, even in casual dating scenarios, eventually, a point arrives where compatibility dissolves. And typically, people react explosively. They assign blame. They break down emotionally. But the emotionally intelligent man accepts reality. He processes his grief privately. Then he proceeds with clarity. He doesn't create dramatic exits. He doesn't compete to win the breakup. He departs with his self-respect undamaged. And nothing disturbs a woman more profoundly than encountering a man capable of walking away without looking back. Because it demonstrates she never possessed emotional control over him. He chose to participate in the relationship. And when the dynamic shifted unfavorably, he chose to exit. This kind of personal authority leaves an indelible impression, and it redefines what truly makes a man formidable. Trait #6 continued. You can disengage without drama or remorse. This represents the ultimate expression of emotional intelligence, the capacity to release without creating chaos. In marriage, whether in committed partnerships or casual connections, eventually there comes a point when the relationship no longer functions properly. Most individuals react with outbursts. They point fingers. They collapse emotionally. But the man with emotional intelligence responds differently. He embraces reality. He processes his sorrow in private. Then he acts with purpose. He avoids dramatic gestures. He doesn't compete to appear better after the separation. He exits with self-respect fully preserved. And nothing unsettles a woman more deeply than encountering a man who can depart cleanly, without glancing backwards, because this demonstrates she never had emotional ownership over him. He was present by choice. And when the dynamic changed unfavorably, he deliberately chose to leave. This form of personal authority leaves a permanent impression, and it offers a new definition of what truly makes a man formidable. You don't need aggressive volume to earn respect. You don't need to plead to receive affection. And you certainly don't need manipulation tactics to maintain someone's interest. What you require is inner quietness, a mind you direct, not one that works against you, emotional awareness you developed, not feelings that overwhelm you, words that communicate with precision, not meaningless noise. Because when you develop mastery over your emotions without suppressing them, when your speech comes from intention rather than reaction, when you navigate life with composed presence instead of desperate energy, you transform into a powerful influence, not through loudness, but through impact, not by being predictable, but through exactness, not by emotional coldness, but through calculated strength, in the most self-disciplined, intentional manner possible. Here is the truth rarely spoken openly. A man with these qualities transforms the atmosphere without uttering a single word. Because he doesn't simply arrive, he establishes presence. He doesn't merely attract attention, he awakens something deeper. He has no need for performances, because his authentic self naturally commands respect. Women don't fear this type of man because he manipulates or mistreats. They simultaneously fear and desire him, because he evokes genuine feelings they cannot fabricate. Security paired with excitement, emotional warmth alongside clear boundaries, meaningful connection without emotional turbulence. This quality of presence disrupts established patterns. It halts manipulative games. It brings forth honesty, sometimes even from individuals who weren't prepared to confront it. And that is uncommon. That is influential. That is essential. So don't pursue approval. Don't seek to be selected. Instead, work toward becoming centered, perceptive, conscious, fully engaged. A man who observes more than he talks, who listens not to formulate responses, but to genuinely comprehend, who guards his inner peace as something precious and shares it exclusively with those who demonstrate worthiness. You need to achieve perfection. You simply need consistent discipline, patience, and motivation stemming from something deeper than external validation. So proceed deliberately. Develop yourself quietly. Refine your communication. Define your principles clearly. Master your personal energy. And allow the world to adjust to your presence, rather than constantly adapting yourself to others. Because a man who has achieved self-mastery doesn't merely advance. He transforms his surroundings. We are all working toward greater clarity and inner strength. So let us develop minds that remain unshakable. This journey of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily practice of choosing yourself first, not from selfishness, but from understanding that your strongest position in any relationship begins with being grounded within yourself. Each day offers countless opportunities to practice emotional intelligence. The colleague who dismisses your ideas during a meeting, the partner who tests your boundaries with subtle jabs, the friend who brings drama into peaceful situations. These aren't just frustrations, they retraining grounds. True emotional intelligence emerges gradually through consistent small decisions. Choosing calm over chaos, choosing clarity over confusion, choosing self-respect over validation seeking. Each time you pause before reacting, you strengthen this muscle. Each time you refuse to chase someone who is withdrawing to test you, you reinforce your center. Each time you walk away from dysfunction without explanation or drama, you claim your power. Remember that emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about experiencing them fully while maintaining your direction. Feel the anger, the disappointment, the desire, but don't let these emotions dictate your actions. Observe them passing through you like weather patterns, knowing that beneath the changing skies, your core remains steady. The emotionally intelligent man understands something profound. Relationships aren't about proving your worth to anyone. They are about creating space where genuine connection can emerge naturally, without force, without games, without manipulation. This space only opens when you've done the work on yourself first. Most people spend their lives reacting to others, trapped in patterns established in childhood or formed through painful experiences. They bounce from reaction to reaction, wondering why relationships feel so exhausting, so confusing, so unsatisfying. Breaking this cycle requires courage to face yourself honestly, to examine your triggers, to understand where your emotional responses come from. This inner work isn't comfortable, but it is transformative. When you commit to emotional intelligence, you're not just changing how women see you. You're changing how you experience your entire life. Arguments become conversations, tests become observations, relationship drama becomes purposeful connection. The endless, exhausting game of proving yourself worthy simply dissolves, replaced by the quiet certainty that you already are. This self-assurance isn't built on arrogance or inflated ego. It is built on honest self-assessment, knowing your strengths without exaggeration, acknowledging your weaknesses without shame. It is understanding that your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's opinion of you. This stable sense of self becomes your foundation, allowing you to engage with others from a position of genuine strength rather than insecurity disguised as confidence. Consider how different your relationships become when you're no longer afraid of rejection, no longer desperate for approval, no longer willing to compromise your values for temporary acceptance. You begin to attract people who respect boundaries, who communicate clearly, who bring value rather than drama, and those who thrive on emotional chaos. They naturally drift away, sensing they can pull you into their storms. The practice of emotional intelligence transforms not just how you handle relationships, but how you navigate your entire life. Work challenges, family tensions, personal setbacks, all become opportunities to demonstrate the same calm, centered presence. You become the eye of the storm rather than the storm itself. You become the stable point that others orient around when things get chaotic. And here is what few men ever realize. This quality of presence becomes more valuable, more attractive, more necessary as you age. While physical attributes fade and youthful energy diminishes, emotional intelligence only deepens with experience. The man who masters this becomes more compelling at 40 than he was at 20, more powerful at 60 than he was at 40. He ages not into irrelevance, but into wisdom. We are all working toward greater clarity and inner strength, so let us develop minds that remain unshakable. How has emotional intelligence changed your relationships? What is the hardest part of maintaining your center when someone tries to pull you into emotional chaos? Share your experience in the comments below. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you found this video useful, please like it and subscribe to the channel. There are more videos on this channel that will help you become a better version of yourself.